Hey, Big Brother fans, we have a live feeds update. Cam now wants to see T'Kor out the door, as do several others, but the janky backyard setup is making it hard to plot privately without it being super obvious. Meanwhile, we've had hours and hours and hours of T'Kor being super salty on the feeds with Rubina as her hype woman with no idea the vote could be turning against her. So let's talk about where the votes align at the moment and whether they will pull off this blindside on T'Kor or if Rubina is going to be out this week, and what Cam has been saying about the best play for their games. So right after the veto meeting Monday, Angela brought up to Makensy and Leah that she would like to see T'Kor evicted this week. And Makensy was totally on board with it. They think Rubina wants to be in the game more. So that's 2 votes, right? We need 3 to evict. That's 2. Since then, T'Kor and Rubina talked about how they can't campaign against each other because they love each other too much. But actually, Rubina has been campaigning behind T'Kor's back. More on that in a moment. So Rubina and T'Kor spent a lot of Monday and a good bit of Tuesday curled up on their cots, assessing how bad everybody else's games are. You know, saying Leah was on borrowed time, all that. They're still the ones on the block, though, and they're not trying to save themselves. The 2 nominees are just totally with each other for the most part. It's weird gameplay. They said Leah, Angela, and Cam's gameplay won't work because they aren't playing with their heart. Then they talked about how they are changing Big Brother by showing you can win and be a good person with no backstabbing. I'm just going to pause there for a second. First, one of them is out of the game this week and will not win. Second, I don't know how T'Kor doesn't see that her putting Tucker on the block was not a backstab. She knew he was at risk. He was a huge house target. It was a bad move. She has said it at the time, and they suggested basically only Chelsie or Kimo can win the season because the rest of the house guests are villains. And then Rubina and T'Kor were saying they want a good person to win. That sounds nice, but in reality, there's been a lot of monsters that have won Big Brother over the years. I'm not going to name names. You guys know who they are. This is not a game designed to be won that way. I mean, changing the game to where it's all friendly and cuddly and a good person wins, I don't think I'd watch it. It would be so dull. So Rubina and T'Kor stayed up late last night talking about how they should have confronted Leah after the veto ceremony. And that goes with their weekend talk about how they were going to confront Angela. And then Kimo's big talk about blowing up the game. None of that manifested. So Leah decided to do some decorating for Kimo's birthday in the wee hours of the morning so he would wake up to birthday fun. And Rubina and T'Kor were on their cots, whispering, looking, they were not doing anything for the birthday planning. And then were griping that she was decorating because they were mad because he's their friend, not hers. They were even talking about taking down her decorations. And then they said, they could have been decorating, but they really needed to talk game instead. Talking game with the other person on the block is not talking game when you're both nominated. It really isn't, because that person can do nothing for you except, self-evict. So there was a lot of Leah hate going on. And I was actually wondering how much of Rubina and T'Kor trashing her that Leah heard, because while she was decorating, she was kind of staying behind the fire pit nearby, intentionally listening to them. So then they specifically decided to sleep instead of getting up to decorate. But then today, T'Kor told Kimo they weren't allowed to decorate. Only one person was. And I didn't see anybody strapping them to their cots or Leah telling them, no decorating for you. This is my job. None of that happened. They chose not to do it. T'Kor also vented to Rubina that Leah should have come to her before she renommed her. She said Leah didn't approach her all day on Monday. If you know you might be put on the block, it is your obligation to go talk to the HOH, not the other way around. That's how the game played, more saltiness. So what I found pretty ironic is that T'Kor's not handling being on the block well at all. But then Friday and Saturday, she was criticizing Kimo to Rubina, saying he wasn't handling being nominated very well at all. So T'Kor also told Rubina that Leah assured her she had the numbers to stay, and that's making her feel good. But at the same time, remember, T'Kor's talking to the other person who's on the block. So she's essentially saying to Rubina, you're going to be evicted and I'm safe. That's what I've heard, but maybe she's not safe at all. Let's talk about the tide shifting. So if they can get their ducks in a row, and to be fair, there's a couple hundred ducks in the backyard right now, they might pull this off. But the problem is everybody's disjointed. So late Monday night, Chelsie was hinting that she is ready to vote out T'Kor while she was talking to Leah. And she was saying that T'Kor is the strongest of the three because her social game is so good. And Chelsie also mentioned that T'Kor betrayed Kimo, pushing that all-girls alliance, and called her untrustworthy. But it also sounded like Chelsie didn't think there were enough votes to evict T'Kor, because then later she was saying T'Kor should be fine on the block. And if the people voting talked, I do think they would pull off a blindside vote. So then later Chelsie went to T'Kor and was being very sympathetic, saying she was really surprised that she was renommed. Live feed watchers know that's not true. Chelsie knew ahead of time. And in fact, if you've been watching the live feeds for a while, as opposed to just the CBS edited shows, you would probably know that since about week 3, Chelsie has wanted T'Kor evicted, and she has talked about targeting her. So remember earlier I mentioned Rubina campaigning for herself against T'Kor. So she did. She went to Angela and convinced her to keep her this week by saying T'Kor is better at Big Brother, so she's way more of a threat than Rubina. And then today on the feeds, Angela followed up with her and asked her to promise not to nominate her, and Rubina agreed. And then Angela told her the big issue is that Chelsie and Cam need to be convinced to switch their votes and evict T'Kor. Angela even encouraged Rubina to go talk to Makensy and Kimo about why it's smarter to keep her and send T'Kor out because she's more strategic. And then Rubina was saying it's time to make a big move, and she's not here to keep anybody safe, meaning T'Kor, directly in conflict with the way she was talking to T'Kor. And this is back to, this is how Big Brother is played. Rubina is playing it. She's just not letting T'Kor know that she's playing it. So at the same time that Angela and Rubina were talking, Cam was talking to Leah and Makensy about why he thinks T'Kor should be evicted this week. Leah doesn't get a vote, so her buy-in wasn't crucial. But at the same time, it wasn't problematic talking in front of her, because she's not going to go give T'Kor a heads up, because she's been giving Leah death stares since she found out she was going to be renommed. So while Cam and Leah were talking, she also told him that T'Kor told her his name, that she should use Cam as a renom instead of her. So for that and other reasons, Cam does want to send T'Kor packing this week. He wants to win HOH, and he wants to go after Rubina and Kimo to break up that twosome. Also, not a bad strategy for Cam. The sticking point in Cam's big plan is Chelsie. So as of now, Cam said he doesn't want to vote against how she wants to vote, because he just assured her she's his only final two person. And that came after they made up from their shouting match over moving beds, rain, and him getting petted by other women. So if Cam, Makensy, Angela, and Chelsie would just get together for a talk, leave Kimo out of it because, you know, he's aligned with both the nominees, they could lock it down. They have all individually said they want T'Kor out this week. I mean, Rubina wants T'Kor out this week. And the problem is the janky yard setup. It would be very hard to pull off a four-way conversation like that without it being noticed. But the bottom line is they need to do it. And just as a reminder, in past weeks, T'Kor has nominated Cam and Makensy and Angela. So I'm certain they would lock in those three votes if Cam didn't feel like he'd get in trouble with Chelsie over it. And if he had a frank talk with Chelsie, he might see that she was on board. 3 votes to evict this week. You know, Chelsie could vote with them. She has talked about evicting T'Kor to some people, but then talked about Rubina to others. She's continuing that very clever middle game that Quinn said made her dangerous. I do think she's one of the best players in this game. The big question, of course, is how will Kimo vote? He adored Tucker, who adored Rubina, so that's one way to go. But Kimo might feel he has a stronger ally if he keeps T'Kor. That's valid too. But if somebody told Kimo that T'Kor was pushing that all-girls alliance and was ready to kick him to the curb, that might sway his thinking, although Rubina was in on that plot as well. So let's face it, Kimo has no good choices this week because he's close to them both. Maybe Rubina will go to work on him overnight like Angela advised her to, but for now, Kimo is just enjoying his birthday. Cam is out for another long horseback ride on the Big Brother Prairie. He tickles me so much when he rides that horse. And T'Kor and Rubina, you know, are continuing to be so salty. They could be an ocean. They've got to... I mean, Rubina's campaigning. I just don't know why T'Kor is unwilling to campaign. And again, she thinks people should be coming to her. She needs to be going to them. You know, it's Big Brother. If you don't ask for things, you don't get things. So I really wonder if the house guests are going to lock down the votes ahead of time, or if they're going to go into Thursday's live episode just scattered and without knowing how the others are planning to vote. I mean, the conversation probably could be had, as I said, without Kimo. They could all agree on this blind side since they're all talking about it, or, you know, they might wind up blindsiding each other because they haven't bothered to check in and they wind up with a split vote. And then Rubina goes, and then T'Kor goes nuclear on the 2 who voted against her. So we'll have more updates soon, but please subscribe if you have not.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.